5 seconds to go. Start. The details of our fishermen was received. The government had immediately taken up the matter with the government of Sri Lanka, both in New Delhi as well as in Colombo, expressing our deep concern at these incidents. We emphasized that resort to firing or use of force in such situations had no justification. We requested the Sri Lankan government to seriously investigate these incidents and ensure that they do not reoccur. We also emphasized that they should scrupulously adhere to the October 2008 joint statement on fishing arrangements in letter and spirit. To underline the seriousness with which government viewed these developments, Foreign Secretary visited Sri Lanka from January 30th 31st 2011 to convey government's strong concern over the killing of our fishermen. She also called on His Excellency President Mahindra Rajapakse. A joint statement was issued during her visit where both sides agreed that the use of force cannot be justified under any circumstances. The Sri Lankan government reiterated their commitment to ascertaining the facts behind the incidents, though they denied any responsibility in the two incidents of death of our fishermen. Both sides agreed that the October 2008 understanding on fishing arrangements had led to a decrease in incidents and there was need to discuss further arrangements so as to strengthen the safety and security of the fishermen. It was decided that the next meeting of the joint working group on fishing would be convened at an early date and contacts between the fishermen associations on both sides would be encouraged. I had also taken up these strongly with the Sri Lankan External Affairs Minister Professor G.L. Paris when I met him on 7th February 2011 on the margins of the meeting of the SARC Council of Ministers in Thimphu, Bhutan. I not only conveyed our deep concern at the violence against our fishermen but had also stressed the need to ensure that these incidents do not reoccur. Honorable members would also be aware that in two recent but separate incidents this month, a total of 136 Indian fishermen were surrounded by Sri Lankan fishermen at sea, apprehended and handed over to Sri Lankan police. Our fishermen had strayed into Sri Lankan waters close to Jaffna and Point Pedro. Some of our fishermen were injured in the skirmish at sea. On receiving the news of the arrest, government took up the matter immediately with the Sri Lankan government. I personally spoke to my Sri Lankan counterpart on 17th February and conveyed our deep concern at Sri Lanka nationals talking low into their own hands. I requested for their immediate release. In response to my request, the government of Sri Lanka released the fishermen on 18th February. I would also like to point out to this august house that almost all instances of arrest and harassment to our fishermen seems to have occurred in Sri Lankan waters when our fishermen stray across the international maritime boundary line. While this by itself does not provide any justification for use of force against our fishermen, we need to be conscious of the sensitivities on the Sri Lankan side and of the many Sri Lankan fishermen who have, after a long hiatus, started fishing in that area. In fact, it is keeping in mind the humanitarian and livelihood dimensions of this issue that the two governments on 26 October 2008 had issued a joint statement on fishing arrangements under which both agreed to put in place practical arrangements to deal with bona fide fishermen from either country crossing the IMBL. It was agreed that there will be no firing on Indian fishing vessels. While the incidents in 2011 have no doubt caused much consternation and concern in India, it is also pertinent to point out that after October 2008, there has been a significant decrease in 2009 and 2010 in apprehension of Indian fishermen and use of force against them in 2009 and 2010. Both our countries have agreed that the Joint Working Group on Fisheries will meet in March this year. We would also encourage the fishing associations of both countries to continue with their informal contacts since such contacts have proved to be mutually beneficial. I hope that in the days to come, our countries move forward to ensure that our fishermen can fish with safety and security. Madam Speaker, honorable members would be aware that the US government closed last month Tri-Valley University in California for alleged immigration fraud and other irregularities. The university was authorized in February 2009 to admit a limited number of foreign students but did not enjoy state accreditation. Approximately 1,500 Indian students, constituting 95% of the enrollment at the university, face an uncertain academic future. The students were on valid visas or authorization. US authorities questioned a number of Indian students and 18 of them were initially detained and then released with radio monitoring devices on their ankles pending completion of the investigations for possible involvement in the irregularities. The government, as well as our embassy and consulate general in the United States, are fully engaged in addressing the welfare and the academic future of the affected students. Stop.